Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube video today. And as you can see on the slides, today we're going to talk about an essential topic in economics, unemployment. This chapter is both important in the test and also relating with the topics on other important concepts. Okay, and the presenter today includes Jenny, Penny, and Ailiya. This video will include all the basic information for knowing what unemployment is and how to calculate it, and also with some different causes and case studies. We're hoping that after this video you can have a better understanding of unemployment and why it is important in the society nowadays. To start off, let's talk about the definition of unemployment. Unemployment means people who are available and actively looking for work but are unable to find a work. It is important to mention that the unemployment is needed to be required for both conditions. First is available and actively looking for a job. At the same time, if any of this doesn't match the requirements, the person cannot be counted as unemployed. So it is important to point out that not everyone who is working is unemployed. Let's take a look at this picture. The workforce can be divided as three parts: employed, unemployed, and outside the labor force, and I'll explain each part in detail. First is employed, which means that people who have a job, and second is unemployed. As mentioned previously, it means that a person who is available and also actively searching for a job but still unable to find a job that they require. So people who cannot find a job and active but are available to have a job can be counted as unemployed. And lastly is the people out of the workforce. This means that like people who retired, children, students, prisoner, housewife, and also discouraged workers who is not available and not looking for a job. Discouraged worker is kind of worth to mention. It means that people who are available but not actively seeking work and can be defined as discouraged workers. The reasons can be that due to the constant failure of finding jobs and being discouraged and eventually decided to give up seeking for a job. This kind of people is not included in the workforce. It belongs to the outside of the workforce because they are not actively looking for a job. Another point is the concept of full employment. Full employment means all the resources and labors in a society are being utilized to its full capacity, which is a good in theory, but however, in the reality, it is very hard to achieve in the real world because there always be people trying to switching through jobs and having a transition through different positions. Next, let's talk about how the unemployment rate is calculated. The formula is the number of unemployment rate divided by the number of the labor force.
Moving forward, we're going to focus on causes and effects of unemployment. There are 8 causes of unemployment, and in this video we will be introducing the 3 main causes. First of all, frictional unemployment. This is associated with job search. People who are in between jobs, whether they leave voluntarily or on fired. To keep up with demand and opportunity cost, the pattern of production changes that cause frictional unemployment. Moreover, it occurs when certain industries boom while other industries decline. So critical for workers to transition from those declining industries to rising industries. Also, frictional unemployment is a natural event as labor dynamic changes, which explains that it is impossible to have zero unemployment. Because the economic will always exist, people left their job due to personal reasons, or people return to the workforce, or people enter the job market. So, what are the solutions to the problem? First, lower the unemployment benefits can encourage people to look for jobs instead of taking their time and become discouraged workers. Second measure is to increase information about job openings. And third, the situation can be improved through measures that improve the mobility of labor. For example, offer information on how workers can improve their job search. Governments can improve transportation facilities, use employment exchanges to provide employment assistance, and so on. This is the graph of frictional unemployment. Aggregate demand represents labor demand, and aggregate supply is labor supply. At wage level 1, the red gap shows the frictional unemployment. Secondly, structural unemployment occurs when there is a long-term changes in the economic and market conditions create mismatch between the skills needed by employees and skills that employees possess, and that also called skills gap. It is a permanent fall in demand for a particular job. Here are primary causes of structural unemployment, including technological changes, geographical immobility, occupational immobility, competition, government policy, declining and rising of industry. Let's take the United States as an example. As the U.S. exports more production jobs to China and other countries to reduce costs, to save money, people working those manufacturing jobs domestically will lose work. These workers must gain the necessary skills to be hireable elsewhere in their country. This is the graph for structural unemployment. The demand curve shifts to the left when there is a change in the structure of an industry. Finally, cyclical unemployment is related to business cycle, which means the economic phase affects unemployment. Workers get laid off in large numbers when there is a downturn of the business cycle. Therefore, it's the major cause of the high unemployment. On the other hand, once the economic enters extension phase, workers get rehired in large numbers. During the financial crisis in 2008, the housing bubble burst and the Great Recession began. As more and more borrowers failed to meet the debt obligations associated with their homes, and qualifications for new loans become more stringent, the demand for new construction declined. With the overall number of unemployed climbing and more borrowers unable to maintain payments on their homes, additional property were subject for foreclosure, driving demand for construction even lower. As a result, approximately 1.5 million workers in the construction field became unemployed. This rise in unemployment was cyclical unemployment. This is cyclical unemployment graph. As demand declines, the real wage remains fixed. The result as shown on the graph is that the quantity of labor supplied is greater than the quantity of labor demanded, and we have cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment usually occurs when there is a shift in the aggregate demand for labor and real wages do not adjust to return the labor market to equilibrium. Overall, these are the three main causes of unemployment. Which one is the worst? The answer is structural unemployment. Unemployment has always been an important task for governments. Why? Because for economic body, there is a loss of human capital, so the economic will never reach the full employment. Moreover, for governments, there will be less tax revenue, which means governments will have less budgets for spending. Furthermore, there will be a loss of income for unemployed. Also, the unemployment may cause social problems like alienation. Lastly, the social well-being cost rises. Next, I want to introduce the Phillips curve. The Phillips curve states that inflation and unemployment have an inverse relationship. Higher inflation is associated with lower unemployment, and vice versa. Understanding the Phillips curve in light of consumer and worker expectations shows that the relationship between inflation and unemployment may not hold in a long term, or even potentially in the short run. Take US as an example. According to this graph, there are occasions when we can see a trade-off between unemployment and inflation. For example, between 1979 and 1983, inflation (CPI) fell from 15% to 2.5%. During this period, we see a rise in unemployment from 5% to 11%. In 2008, the recession caused a sharp rise in unemployment, and inflation became negative.
Next, I will be discussing the unemployment challenges faced by Generation Z as a case study. Generation Z is a generation born between 1997 and 2012. They account for approximately 27% of the world's population and presents unique features and struggles in the job market. Generation Z is known for its close relationship with technology. Having grown up in a digital age, they are highly adept at using smartphones and social media platforms for communication and information sharing. Moreover, Generation Z welcome people of different races, genders, and sexual orientations, fostering an inclusive and tolerant mindset. When it comes to unemployment, Generation Z faces two common types: frictional unemployment and voluntary unemployment. Frictional unemployment is frequently experienced by college students seeking employment after graduation. In addition, the transition from education to the workforce can be challenging, leading to a temporary period of unemployment. As for voluntary unemployment, because educated graduates are unwilling to do jobs in certain fields, and also sometimes jobs do not meet their expectations, it contributes to periods of unemployment. Let's look at the example from China, where the unemployment rate among Generation Z climbed to 18.4% in 2022. With around 10.87 million university students graduating, the job market becomes increasingly competitive. Educated young job seekers often prefer to join big tech companies or industry aligned with their expectations. According to a report released by Tongdao Lieping Group, a recruitment agency based in China, there has been a 19.67% year-on-year rise in job applications for big tech companies from recent graduates. This preference leads to voluntary unemployment, as some Generation Z graduates are not willing to work in certain industries, such as manufacturing. In China, there is a significant presence of manufacturing jobs. However, well-educated graduates shows a reluctance or lack of preparation to pursue such opportunities. To address the alarming surge in youth unemployment in urban areas, the Chinese government is actively encouraging college graduates to pursue job opportunities in the countryside. Moreover, the government plans to provide tax incentives and loans to graduates who establish businesses catering to rural communities. Similar benefits will also be extended to small businesses in villages that hire college graduates, particularly in fields like housekeeping and elderly care.
And this slide includes our references. And thanks for listening. Hope you learned something today.